Welcome to Acharya Shunya's Global Satsang. Acharya Shunya is a modern teacher of non-dual Advaita Vedanta philosophy from the Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita, the lived practices of Vedic yoga, and the transformative knowledge of Ayurveda lifestyle wisdom. Her teaching changes lives, enabling happiness, well-being, and spiritual abundance. For seekers of the ultimate truth, these teachings awaken consciousness and assist realization of the sovereign self. Acharya Shunya is a Vedic wisdom holder of an ancient lineage. She received traditional training under her guru, Baba Ayodhya Nath, in Ayodhya, India. Baba tasked Acharya Shunya to bring these teachings to the modern world. As a teacher who has walked this Vedic path from darkness to light, from emotional bondage to spiritual freedom, Acharya Shunya is uniquely able to dynamically communicate these ancient subtle teachings to modern students. We welcome you to begin your journey of Vedic studentship with these monthly classes. Please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and Vedic Contemplations Facebook group for ongoing study with Acharya Shunya.
Welcome to my global satsang. This is a very special satsang because I have for you some contemplations that are important in our times today, both due to the death of our brother George Floyd, a death that was uncalled for, unwarranted, but perhaps it will lay the seeds for true life. Life for all the people of Afro-American ancestry. People whose color is black of their skin, and they are being discriminated. They are not being treated well with respect that they deserve. Probably this will change the path for all people who deal with segregation, with discrimination, with injustice. I will also talk about a second topic, which is the angst within our own selves, specifically in the arena of intimate relationships, mandated due to what is going on right now on our planet, which is the COVID-19 pandemic, because of which there is lockdown. So either we are too cooped up with the people we didn't usually want to be in such almost suffocating intimacy, physical intimacy, constant intimacy with no breaks, or we are far away from the people we want to be with, we yearn to be with them. For example, maybe we want to be with our parent and our parent dies and we couldn't fly there to be with them, or we couldn't be with someone who needs us. All this causes a lot of sorrow. So I want to bring up both these topics. In the first hour, I will share with you what is in my heart about the incidents around the gross injustice meted out to George Floyd and what it's uncovering for the people of color worldwide and in our nation. And I will share my unique perspectives, Vedic perspectives, spiritual perspectives. And in the next hour, I will talk to you. Mainly, I will answer some questions I have received. To be honest, I can't answer or respond to all the questions because there are many channels through which the questions pour in, but I've picked up a few and I'll go through them. And then, of course, we'll do a Q&A after each section. So we'll have 2 Q&As this time because these 2 topics are different. So let me begin first with a moment of silence. I don't exactly am going to watch a clock right now for that 1 minute of silence, but let's do that silence until we feel like we have respectfully connected with the soul of George Floyd, with that eternal aspect of him, because we are told in the Vedas that each one of us has a body that will fall one day or the other. I mean, of course, this was unfortunate circumstances, but there is an imperishable aspect of George Floyd. And wow, what an aspect of that dimension, because that alone has become the guiding spirit for change that is long due. So let's take that moment of silence for that incredible, beautiful body. That hosted beautiful spirit of George Floyd. If we didn't know you before you passed away intimately, we now know what purpose you had come on our planet for. We are going inwards, George Floyd, to touch that part of ourselves in silence that is always connected to you. When you couldn't breathe, we couldn't breathe. When you cried for your mama, we were forsaken too. And now that you have died, that part of us died, which had become subservient to injustice, which had become complacent and okay. And now that you have joined eternal life, we too are following you and seek to know what eternal life means on planet. Do we have to die to achieve that, or can we really be alive and not walking around like dead people? Our conscience dead, our feelings dead, our love dead. So to you, I offer this silence. Thank you for joining me in this moment. I have been approaching this satsang for solidarity in my mind as to how I want to proceed. I also got input from my team, and I want to definitely talk about questions such as, and let me pull them up, Have I talked to my family about race? How do I talk to my colleagues in professional network about systems of oppression? What are we afraid to look at? What is missing from the conversation on justice? What events in history have shaped where we are today? What's the context? And what can I do or say today that I have not done before? First, I was thinking I'm going to talk about these. And I still am, probably. But instead of going down this list one by one, I thought I will spend the precious time I have to share with you my own unique Vedic perspective, because I believe, when I research some more, that a lot of great teachers are already providing a lot of spiritual context around this context. And there is a lot of social, a discussion within the social realm, the realm of social justice. But there is not enough light thrown from a perspective of dharma and Vedas, and they're quite clear. And I looked around and I didn't find my voice echoed anywhere. So I thought I could bring you my perspective, which I feel may give you some ideas around the exact questions, which are very relevant questions, and how you can answer them in your own life. So instead of leading you through those questions and then giving you the answers, which may take pretty much the whole day, why don't I give you a concise perception of how the Vedas would approach something like this? Would you like that? Please write yes. I do go back and, I get informed about your interaction, your engagement, your comments while this is being live streamed, or if you watch it afterwards. This shapes our conversation. So let's go forward and let's look at what is happening as a result of police brutality with the Black community in specific, and I can include in it brown community too, and people of color in general, vis-a-vis the white community. And what is happening here? What should we be doing when we find out that, because what has come to center stage is that it was not just George Floyd's murder is really the tip of the iceberg. It may have happened due to, it's not intentional, it's manslaughter, but still, it is manslaughter. And we have reached an era in our technological, scientific, social, and spiritual development where can we really afford to live with such darkness? Can we afford to live with, the knee pressing down on the necks of the people of color, of the Black community in specific? We cannot just take it lightly, because the tip of the iceberg revealed that there are almost like 1,000 such cases per year, and there may be more. We've just begun to take count. After George Floyd's incident, we've had so many more incidents come up in the news, and it's shocking. So what should be our action? Probably this is where I want to focus upon. Please hear me out. So sometimes we are told that, it's not, we must protest. So one, protesters are not destructive people. We are protesters. We are protesting injustice. And I really hope this protest continues. It doesn't die down. It really becomes a revolution. At the same time, it's very confusing to people, because we start feeling like there is only one way to protest. And the word that is thrown around a lot is non-violent protest and peaceful protest. and even people justify it. We were protesting peacefully, and then we get defensive against the wall for when we did break our peace. But the Vedas were an amazingly bold system, and they were really congruent, they were really holistic in their vision. And they said that yes, ahimsa or non-violence is the highest dharma. The word dharma means that which is good for all beings. It comes from the root word dri, dharyanti iti dharmaha, that which sustains. So we can't, in the big picture, we can't just choose one community over the other community. We can't just say white is the only good community, black is the only good community. Oh wait, put them aside, brown is the best community. Ultimately our goal is that just like all flowers of multiple colors, shades and hues live peacefully on this planet, can we also share this planet happily and gleefully? Isn't that our goal? And for that, ahimsa is an ultimate goal. And that is why the Vedas have said, ahimsa paramo dharma. And this line is quoted a lot, because this line was, Mahatma Gandhi, he was the leader of non-violent protest and non-violent movement and transformation. It was one of his favorite lines. And then this line became kind of the cornerstone of Indian freedom movement. And then the history books also talk about it. And then it went ahead and influenced Nelson Mandela and Martin Luther King Jr. here. And so non-violence became a big thing. But I want to tell you that the Vedas didn't say this only. This is not the complete statement. Yes, the first line is ahimsa paramo dharma. Ahimsa, non-violence, is the highest righteous win-win path, no doubt, prescribed to humanity. But the second line says, dharma himsa tathaiva cha. And so is himsa or violence when it is in the service of dharma. So whenever there is any violence, again, in the service of dharma, rioting may not be in the service of dharma. Destruction of, people who are not involved, or property, or rape, or any such thing is not condoned. But let me give you examples of righteous dharma. Let me give you examples. So, we have in the Indian freedom struggle, talking about the country I come from, everybody only hears about Gandhi. But nobody hears about, and the movements he led, and what he said, and what he wrote, and he was a saint. So what he's saying has a meaning. We need to bring both together. So hear me out, okay? It's like we had Malcolm X, and then we have Martin Luther Jr. King. And so King kept saying, let's go ahead and integrate. And Malcolm X said, I'm not going to integrate. I need to segregate, because I will not integrate at your negotiating table. You have to come to mine. So there were these 2 points of views, and it's exactly these 2 points of views from the Vedas. So Malcolm X was not teaching violence for the sake of violence, for petty egotism. I have picked up some beautiful quotes from him. And nor was Martin Luther King saying, let's bow down and just kiss, this segregated, unjust white legislature. They were both leaders of the Black Revolution, and they have, highly motivated me too. So I will talk about them to you, and I'll connect them to the Vedas, and let's see where we arrive at, okay? So now, when the Vedas say, ahimsa paramo dharma, dharma himsa tathaiva cha, they are putting 2 conditions. They are saying, first and foremost, we should live and work and act from peace, because peace is the highest dharma, except we may need to drop our peace temporarily to the restoration of that peace. Because you cannot really lead peaceful protest or be peacefully protesting in a grotesquely unpeaceful system. You cannot do that. And I know after I did my social media post on Facebook and Instagram, I got some flack. People were thinking that I'm like being this revolutionary who's trying to incite violence. But then I thought, no problem. That's okay. This is a charged time. But I'm a truth teller. That's what I tell myself. So I have to tell the truth even on this satsang and everywhere. That there are people who take one side and then they just run with it. As an acharya means one who leads by their behavior. Acharya, who leads by their teachings. They don't just theorize and intellectualize. I embody both himsa, ahimsa. I'm very peaceful to the people who deserve my peacefulness. But I'm not so peaceful to those who don't. And this is what the Vedas have taught me, and this is what my Hindu gods have taught me. If you look at the Divine Mother Durga or any of these Divine Mothers, even Lakshmi, even Kali, any of them, their one hand, this hand, they will be in this posture. This is Abhaya Mudra, fear not, they are protecting us. They would often, their other hand would be in this giving mudra, Dana Mudra. They are giving to us what we want. We go to them and we ask for help, we get help. So they are holding this. Sometimes they have a third hand in which they are holding a lotus of transcendence. In the fourth hand, they are holding a mala of mindfulness, because japa means mindfulness. But then they have 4 more hands. And they're holding them in the background. And they're holding a sword and a mace and a spear. What does that mean? It means this. It means when all is well, this is all we need to do. Sit like this, like a goddess. But when our safety, our self-respect, our boundaries, our right to be human is taken away from us, and we're not just going to sit around like that, requesting for integration, requesting, pleading, begging for being treated kindly. We'll have to take matters in our hands. And so we have this living proof in India too. Everybody only knows about Gandhi's non-violent contribution, and so much so that the Indian freedom movement has been written, falsified as a non-violent movement towards freedom. That is not true. I beg to differ. In fact, the whole freedom movement began in 1857, even before Mahatma Gandhi was born, and there was a Sepoy mutiny. Sepoy means soldiers, and these were the Hindu and Muslim soldiers who had lived in India for thousands of years together until that time peacefully, and they were inducted in the British Army, but they were treated unfairly by the British. The story is this, that their religious sentiments were violated. I don't have the time to go into it. You can look it up. 1857 Sepoy Mutiny of India. There was such a mutiny that from the top of the Himalayas to the South India, where the British had laid their empire, they were colonizing force, and they were used because they couldn't bring their British army there, so they had inducted the Hindus and Muslims there. Their own army revolted against them. They lost power. The Mughal king, who was considered an emblem of India at that time, was restored for a while. We almost became victorious again until circumstances didn't go in our favor. And we had great leaders who came up. One of them was a queen, the Queen of Jhansi. And she was only 22. But she put her child on her back, on a horse, and she put her kid on her back, and she went with a sword. And she fought so many battles, and when she had to leave her kingdom, she went and recruited the forces of other Hindu and Muslim kings, and she did guerrilla warfare. And the governor at that time has written in his entry, this is the most dangerous leader of the Indian mutiny, and she died at 22. So in 22 years of life, she became a widow, she became a queen, and she created an army where she inducted not just men but women too. She brought together her whole kingdom and she fought tooth and neck. So they were grateful that she was dead, because if she had lived, we would have lost India soon. They didn't want to lose India, because India was their, golden egg laying chicken, hen. So this happened in 1857, and I'm just taking the name of one queen. There were countless kings, queens, sepoys. There was a sepoy known as Mangal Pandey who gave them tooth and neck. So that was the beginning. That was the shaking of the British Empire. There was no non-violence here. There was no sitting and saying, okay, you slap me on this cheek, I'll take it on another cheek. I'll hold a billboard. They actually went to war. And I'm not saying we black people or brown people or yellow people have to go to war. I'm not saying you have to throw a bomb. But we could go to war by voting correctly. We could go to war by, showing up. So, and it's a state of mind. So please hear me carefully before you say next time I'm inciting violence, or, hear me out. You won't find leaders like me quickly. They'll all be just singing away on non-violence, 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 till people come rape your own daughter in front of your eyes. You go sit there and be non-violent, okay? Now, we started this in 1857. Then we have countless people who are called revolutionary. The whole revolutionary movement of India has been buried, but now it is resurfacing. And, we had Subhash Chandra Bose, we had Bhagat Singh, a young man under his 30s, he threw a bomb at the parliament because the parliament was not listening to him. We have Khudiram Bose, a 17-year-old boy. He was hung because he threw a bomb at the carriage of a governor, and he threw it when he was 14. He was full of rage because, as Martin Luther Jr. King said, that sometimes rioting is the voice of the people whose voice was not heard. Because we also had the peaceful Indian National Congress that was dialoguing, that was trying to create policy, that was changing legislation, laws were passed, but still Indians were being treated like dogs in their own culture by the handful of their white colonialists. A bulk of my students are white. My board members may be white. I love the white, the yellow, the blue colored people. I don't know. This is not about white or black. I'm just taking you down the roads of history. Let this satsang tell you who I am. I don't take sides. I take only the side for the people who are dharmic, not based on their color. And at that time, the colonial white leaders were not dharmic. They had segregation. We could not go down the roads where they walked. We could not enter the clubs that they were in. They ruined Ayurveda, Yoga, Vedanta. They burnt our libraries. They locked them down. They took away our heritage from us. They made Hindus and Muslims fight. They had a policy of divide and rule. And so we had this peace. By the time Gandhi came around, he was part of the Indian National Congress, and we did make progress. Just like Martin Luther King made progress. But probably everything that Malcolm X did at a strong level helped him. We have to have the agenda together. Then finally in India, this is the last piece about India, and I'm saying this to show you how much we tend to glamorize the non-violence, but how much there was a war going on that supported whatever legislations happened. Ultimately, the British left India not because this peaceful saint non-violently made salt and told them that, you have to be with us. That helped. But there was a person called Subhash Chandra Bose. He was a patriot. And he saw an opportunity to create an own Indian army that was dedicated to Indian nationalism and not to its British colonial rulers, the British. Okay. During World War II, the British had deployed Indian troops in Japan. Japan took more than 70,000 prisoners of war. These were Hindus and Muslims from India. They were Indians. Subhash Chandra Bose went to Japan. He sneaked out of the country. He went to Japan. I don't know what talks he did, but he convinced the Japanese people. Of course, they had their own interests, but he convinced them, release those prisoners of war to me. Give me those 70,000 native Hindu and Muslim soldiers who were previously employed by the British. I will train them. Please give me some minimum resources. I will train them. I will create an army that is going to liberate India. And do you know that he created an army and he actually went to war with the British? Clearly, the British had more equipment, they had more guns, they had more resources, so they were triumphant. But this really made them shaky because those soldiers and many more soldiers on the Indian terrain were they were employed by the British. And when the British realized that the way we are keeping hegemony on this great country, the way we are keeping them as a slave of our interest is through our army. And if the army itself becomes nationalistic, if it remembers that it belongs to India and it doesn't want to serve the Queen anymore, then how are we going to stay? And at that time, then they voluntarily agreed to leave. Did Gandhi help? Yes. He mobilized the spiritual sentiments of the people through non-violence. Not everybody can go and get recruited in Subhash Chandra Bose's army, but did Subhash Chandra Bose's army show to the British that we are not just going to be peaceful people? If we're gonna work with you, we're gonna talk to you, we're gonna be peaceful with you, but if you're going to push us to a corner, we have the capacity to push you back. And that should be in our life too. We will work with you, we will understand you, we will hold your hand, we will forgive you 100 times, but the 101st time, no. So there is a difference. There are two words for killing in Sanskrit. One word is known as hatya, one word is known as vad. Hatya is where you kill people for petty vendetta. You kill them out of hatred. Just like the police officer, out of their hatred in them, out of their disregard for George Floyd's being, just because it was in a black colored skin, this sheer disregard, he could hold his knee to his neck. This is hatya. This is brutal killing. This goes down as really bad karma. Even human justice will not be able to end the karmic justice that will come to this person and to the system that supports such a person. This is hatya. But vad is that where a life is taken for the collective good, for the higher good, for the protection of dharma. So we have the Hindu god Rama. He was the king of Ayodhya, my city, my place. He is the hero of the Hindu epic Ramayana. And he annihilated Ravana, a very evil king who had kidnapped his own wife, who had meted a lot of injustice to people all around. But when Rama killed him, that was not hatya, that was vad. Because by relieving the world of Ravana, he not only protected his wife's honor, but he saved so many people from his cruelty. In the Mahabharata, in which the Bhagavad Gita is situated, we find that Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, who's a soldier who had to go to war, to vindicate all the injustice done to him. He developed shaky feet, started getting very sentimental. He started wondering, whether non-violence, violence, what should I do? Is this fair? Those are my relatives, that's people I know. Can I do that? And then Lord Krishna said, this is false compassion. This is called ragaha, false. This is not the right time. You're a soldier. You must do your duty. This is not just egotistic killing of somebody for random reasons. Because you don't like how they look. Because you don't know what they have or don't have. No, this is not based on ego. You have to go to war and you have to pick up your weapons, Arjuna, he said to him, because this is what will serve dharma. So if I'm saying something wrong, then entire Veda is wrong. If I'm saying something that's offending your sensibility, then the entire Hindu tradition and Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, it is all nonsense. Then we should just sit there, hold a little sign and wait. But this is not how history has worked. This is not how it has worked. Even the Boston Tea Party was not a peaceful situation. The French Revolution did not come from peace. There always has to be a judicious understanding of peace and not peace. Violence, is it dharmic or is it not dharmic? But dharmic violence with a clear, discerned reason has a purpose. And today, there are peaceful protesters and there are people who may have burned a car. And we're like all busy telling them how bad they are. And then the rest of us get apologetic, right? I want to tell you, we would not get this kind of media attention. The black community would not get this kind of support from the industry now, where, from different, major players in the world of industry who would typically not take sides are now saying that Black Lives Matter. Finally, we were all sitting huddled up in the park. That's where we'll remain, won't we? Your little bit of quota here in jobs, your little bit of like showing inclusion by some photographs. I personally feel this is all just false towing the line. This is not real. We're asking for crumbs. And we're policing people who don't give us crumbs. What we have to now understand is whatever color you be of, if you want to truly make a change to this business of black shaming and black abusing, then you have to understand that we have to give this community its options back. We can't prescribe to them sanitized behavior in an insane system, can we? We can't be shaming them. And if black leaders say, well, we're going to just separate ourselves from what's happening on the roads and we're just holding this little placard or we're asking for legislation and this is what it is. We are fighting Malcolm X and Junior King forever. But if you look back, they were really working together. They really helped create a revolutionary consciousness. So we can't separate the Queen of Jhansi and the Sepoy mutiny in India and J.C. Bose and Dr. Bose who created Subhash Chandra Bose, S.C. Bose who created a Indian National Army, and the work of Gandhi who led like huge movements of peaceful protest. We can't separate them and saying this is weak, that is wrong. We really need to bring them together to say this was all part of a whole communication. If I have something that is upsetting me, I'm going to give peaceful communication 100 chances and then 50 more just because ahimsa paramo dharma, non-violence is the highest dharma. 50 more bonus chances. Because even in Mahabharata, Lord Krishna did not just tell Arjuna, go to war, it's your duty, go and get a revenge. He didn't do that. You must avenge. It was not even revenge. It was avenging injustice and establishing the rule of truth, dharma, and righteousness in India. That's what Arjuna had to do. But he didn't do this before so many chances of diplomacy that Krishna and the team of people he was advising, the Pandavas, were completely flouted by the oppressors. First, Arjuna and his brother's kingdom was usurped unfairly. Their wife was publicly sexually she was publicly disrobed. An attempt was made to make her naked. The kingdom was taken. They were banished from the kingdom. All their attempts at peaceful negotiations were deceits. They were acts of deceits. Finally, even at the last act of diplomacy, the 5 brothers who were the oppressed asked, okay, don't give us our kingdom. We just want to live peacefully. Give us 5 villages. And the other side, which is known as the Kaurava side, said no. So it has now become his dharma to go to war. Whether the kingdom comes, whether the wife's honor is returned or not is secondary now. Now you must not be allowed to spread your malice, your hatred, your empire of injustice, your writ, your law of discrimination. So these were ancient times when people picked up a sword or picked up a gun. I'm going to appeal to you to understand what I'm trying to say. So when I'm saying that sometimes we have to be violent, at least we have to agree to that rage within ourselves. And we have to find ways to accept and not condone people who have this rage to begin with. And then keep up this movement. We have to make sure that we don't make white civilians our target. We don't make, we have friends in the white community. We have friends in every culture. They are standing with us. So then who are these white people who are standing with us? Who are these brown people who are standing with us? Who are these yellow people who are standing with us? Who are these purple people who are standing with us? And who are the black people who are not standing with us? That's a question. And then again it takes me back to the Vedas. And in every Vedic mythology and teaching, story level teaching. Veda is high level teaching and then a story level teaching called Puranas. So the philosophy is contained in the Vedas, in the Upanishads, and its storytelling is contained in later teachings called the Puranas. And in every mythology we come across 2 kinds of beings. And they are known as Asuras and Devas. And even Krishna talks about 2 kinds of personalities, Asuric and Devic. So really it is what was taught in the Upanishad of Bhagavad Gita that comes then in the stories. And you will meet universally. They may have different religion, gender, sexual preference and color of the skin. But you will find Asuric people, and these are the people who it is in their interest that the world is segregated. These are the people who live for power, for money. They have no conscience. And then you will find Devic people. Devic comes from the root word div, which means light. They have the inner light of God in them, of truth in them. These people may be of any color. And these people you will find standing by you, standing and supporting goodness, truth, equality, oneness, peace for all. They'll be protesting with you. They'll be infuriated with you. Their anger is no less anger because they have a different colored skin, because we are all united by that light. So I appeal to my human community that let us keep this war between dharma and its non-dharma. Let us keep this war between Asuras and Devas, as has always happened. And the Vedas show and the Puranic stories show that God and Goddess always come and favor. The higher powers always favor where there is dharma, which is with the Devas. So at the end of the day, are you a Deva? But if you are still holding on to some racial, due to conditioning, due to what you've not looked at, due to habit, if you're still holding on to some superiority, then I hope you spend more time with people like me, because in my other platforms and other satsangs, I teach non-duality because that is the essence of who we are. And once you know this common self between all of us, then it does two things. It makes you unafraid of the other. In case somebody is oppressing you, you refuse to be oppressed, because equality is where you like to operate, and you don't like to oppress another. So dharma simply doesn't mean not abusing. Dharma means not accepting abuse, because you can't leave compassion out. You can't leave yourself out of that non-dual compassionate circle. You can't just be a protector of dharma. Dharma begins with you and ends with you. So we have to make a resolution, if you like my teachings, to not then be an oppressor through not just your actions. It's easy to change your actions. Hello, how are you? Be kind. That's good. Your speech, change it. But your thoughts, go deeper, deeper, deeper into the eyes of the person, beyond their class, beyond their caste. In India we say caste, beyond their religion, beyond their sexual preference, and at last beyond their skin, which is nothing but God's miracle of melanin, and go deeper. We have gone to the moon, we have mapped so many millions of miles. Can we map that few inches between our melanin pigments to see the common truth of self? Ekam sat vipraha bahuda vadanti. There is only one truth. You may call it by different names. Black people, white people, brown people. Nowadays people are upset with, well, Black Lives Matter, so it should not be all lives matter. I understand that. I understand that we don't want to quickly bring the non-dual magic on, a community that's truly like pushed down and needs love and needs to be brought up. Then they can say all lives matter. For right now, they have to say my life matters, Black life matters. Right now they are oppressed. Once they can come to the level of being protectors, then they can say all lives matter. But let us not get caught up in all this, is my request. My request is, let us come up if we have been pushed down. Let us decide how we want to become liberated from the subjugation that is historical and internalized. Let us utilize our rage with a purpose. Let us not condone the people who are showing more rage. It's a matter of time. All of this will come balanced, the scales will tilt, and the Black community will have raised in its own Shakti, in its own power. I plead to you to continue the movement. I have done my part. And let me tell you, I have also dealt with discrimination for my color. Not probably in this country, interestingly, but my father was an ambassador to the country of India, and he would travel abroad. And I dealt with discrimination in a place I visited him. I lived with him briefly outside India. My son, who I raised here, has grown up with discrimination. I remember one time he was in first grade. All the kids were going for a trip to Chinatown. Kids were asked to pick other kids as their partner. And my son had big, large eyes, and he said, "Mom, no one picked me." And I said, "Why is that?" He said, "Because I'm brown." I don't want my 6-year-old child to have this realization that he's unpickable because he's brown. So many white people are not chosen because they may not have money, or they are called trash. I couldn't believe this term. How do humans call others trash? Who is blue-blooded? Who is trash? Who is what class? What this isn't it? Are we done? I could talk 10 hours more, but I decided to keep it short because I wanted to give you my perspective. And I want to end now by 1 minute chanting for the Black community that is hurting, and chanting for the Devic community of any color that is hurting along with the people of color. the Afro-American community. Tejosi tejomai dehi, balamasi balamai dehi, viryamasi viryamai dehi. So you are saying, oh higher powers, you who live through all of us, please give me teja, intelligence, to know who is my friend in this history-changing moment and who is not. Give me eyes beyond just seeing the skin color. If we, and let me find my friends in the people who have the inner light. Let me be supported by them. Give me viryam, give me power. Somewhere I became okay. That is why my brother George Floyd had to die. The reason I've been doing these kind of, I posted on the Facebook, I posted on, I'm now talking on Satsang. It's not my routine topics. I may not talk about them forever, but I needed to pause and talk about it. It's not a political platform. I definitely want to continue teaching the non-dual teachings of the Vedas, but how can I not stop and talk about George Floyd, and I'll keep him alive in my conscience, because somewhere I felt, where was I complicit? Could I have done this satsang sooner? We all have to look within ourselves. And finally, bala. Balamasi means bala. May I have the strength to endure this pain, this suffering, this humiliation, but then the strength to recreate a new era. Shall I share with you? I'm very excited. Are you? I had some quotes from, I'm going to just take 5 more minutes, I had some quotes from Malcolm X and George Luther King that I want to share with you. I know you know them, but this is so amazing. Malcolm X says, I believe there will ultimately be a clash between the oppressed and those that do the oppressing. I believe there will be a clash between those who want freedom, justice, and equality for everyone and those who want to continue the system of exploitation. So in this second line, I feel like he's talking about this eternal clash between the devas, the people with light, and asuras, the people who dislike light. Okay. Then he says, I'm not a racist. If you're suffering from racism, we're not racist. I'm not a racist. I'm against every form of racism and segregation and every form of discrimination. I believe in human beings and that all human beings should be respected as such, regardless of their color. This is coming from Malcolm X. He was somebody who had such a vision that he could stand for when the black community was bleeding. But he could also see a future when all communities, none would suffer, none would feel privileged or suppressed. We would all become really flowers in Mother's garden, Divine Mother's garden. Then something that's very interesting, which is very similar to what I was talking to you about, the Hindu dharma of violence, non-violence, and he says, if violence is wrong in America, violence is wrong abroad too. If it is wrong to be violent defending black women and black children and black babies and black men, then it is wrong for America to draft us and make us violent abroad in defense of her. And if it is right for America to draft us and teach us how to be violent in defense of her, then it is right for you and me to do whatever is necessary to defend our own people right here in this country. This was a speech he gave in New York in 1963. And then, we have King, who's more like Gandhi's, because he was highly inspired by Gandhi, as you know. So it's open knowledge. And he wrote, we must develop and maintain the capacity to forgive. He who is devoid of the power to forgive is devoid of the power to love. There is some good in the worst of us and some evil in the best of us. When we discover this, we are less prone to hate our enemies. India and the British government are not enemies now. We have forgiven them. And I believe that, I remember this, that the Queen asked for forgiveness too. So much of our wealth was also restored to us, some of it, not all, at least the important pieces that mattered to us. Life moves on. So we don't want to remain in permanent hatred at some distant point, if not today. And he said this beautifully, because I've been teaching this podcast on shadow to self. So I really like it when he said, everything that we see is a shadow cast by that which we do not see. So with this I end, and I also recommend you that if you like what I teach, if you believe in the authenticity with which I'm trying to present all perspectives for you to be a more informed, modern citizen of our planet, ancient planet, using this ancient wisdom, then I recommend you become a regular subscriber to my podcast, Shadow to Self. It's newly launched, but it's rich with these kind of deep teachings. And with this, I'd like to take a short break. I'd like to answer your questions on this first section before I move forward to talking about interpersonal relationships during the lockdown. I hope my truth is well received by you. I hope you feel freedom from the Vedas, no judgment, because that's what I found. They see us, they see our pain. And one last thing, they tell us that if you can deal with conflict in a friendly way, this is called sama and dana. Sama means friendly conversation, dana means giving allowances to others, gifts to others, we figure it out, we sort it out. Okay. But if that doesn't happen, then you might need bheda and danda. Bheda means non-cooperation, maybe peacefully, but non-cooperation, separation, segregation, not accepting, not towing the line, and finally danda, which could be punishment. Like we are asking that not just that one police officer, but all four be punished. It's an example. So such overarching options, understanding, and not ever running away from the fact that our planet is not some glamorous spiritual zone to bypass and pretend all is well, everything will be peaceful, and you guys chant your way, imagine your way, dance your way into peace. Sometimes you'll have to make it happen. Thank you. Welcome back. I have only one question right now, which says, as a black woman, how do I become free of the psychological oppression that has been subconsciously internalized, even perhaps passed down through the ages, perhaps? So, It's very important, you know. I don't have a quick answer for you. I think, let me know if my teachings helped you. When we have internalized oppression, we will not be able to act in empowered ways, but we need to. But the fact that you can see that you've internalized oppression is helpful. It's a great big step. Many of us don't see it. When people get colonized, an entire people get colonized, like my country got colonized, it's not easy, you know. We got colonized for hundreds of years, so we forgot our own knowingness. And for a while there, it's an unconscious script. It's not like we decide to internalize it. It's unconscious. It's not our fault. Probably I had also unconsciously internalized some of that subjugation. But when I realized it, you know, knowledge helps. So when I realized it, firstly, my grandfather and great-grandfather were, we were spiritual revolutionaries. I'm not doing anything new. This is in my family. My grandfather was a big supporter, my great-grandfather was a big supporter of Gandhi. So he wove the loom, which was Gandhi's way of protesting, and wore khadi, home woven cloth, and he supported the revolutionaries, and he told people not to be afraid. So we always take a balanced approach, and any little subjugation I had, you will find that I don't need to be anything than I am. You know, I represent my culture. I, speak my truth. And maybe I do that consciously, because I've seen so many, people from my community give up their, even their cultural identity to integrate, and I don't. I'm a universal citizen, but yet I'm grateful to the land which has given me the Vedas. So find out more about your ancestry, your black ancestry. I wanted to respond to you. You had written to me a comment about not having enough, black photos on the websites of my organization. So not just to you, others may have that question. So I want to tell you guys something. My organization has a policy of not buying stock images to show false students. We only show the images, we only buy stock images of spices or nature, but any photos of human beings, these are real people. So if you look carefully through my sites, you will find islanders, Pacific Islanders, Asians, Afro-Americans, even Indians. But it is a fact that a bulk of my students are white Caucasians, but not just from, they are Europeans, they are from Russians, they are from different descent. So please don't ask me to add more black photos, because that means I have to buy the photos and insert them. Why don't you join me next time in some retreats or whatever, and if photos get taken and if they are posted, you will be there. I'm not going to falsify my allegiance to the black community. If you people feel that I need to do that by a photo, then don't learn from me. But if you know me, if you hear me, if you can see the truth with which I'm standing, you'll find enough happy black faces on my social media. It's just how it is. And in a spiritual circle, people don't come just because I'm giving away candy or cookies. They come if they are ready to transform, like you have. So I'm not saying that don't ask me to do that, but I'm just putting it out in the public for everybody that Acharya Shunya's work, my work as a soul in this brown body, in this lifetime. I might have been black in another, Native American in another, a squirrel in another, a dog in another. I don't know. But in this lifetime, I'm not going to toe any lines. So I can stop teaching completely. I will not toe any line. I live and die for injustice. I have internalized George Floyd's pain as much as you all have. He doesn't only belong to the black community. He belongs to all of us who have the light and the compassion and the sorrow for what he went through. I have cried physical tears. So I'm going to remain as I am, and you can trust me. You can take me to the bank that every photo there of students is of real people. This shall reassure you, my child. Thank you. Oh, I have received more questions. How do we each recognize the Asura Deva qualities in ourselves? If you are somebody who is feeling like you are somewhere benefiting from your privileges, or you cut your roots from your own community, say you are a black legislator or somebody who's deployed in the army or the police, and you still feel that it's okay just for your salary or your promotion or your pension to follow orders. Yes, we all can't, unless there is a mutual non-cooperation movement, we might still follow orders. But do you feel the pain? And do you, there was a Sepoy mutiny, after all, in India. The soldiers had to say, we're not going to follow orders. We're not going to kill our own people. So somewhere when the part of us that is selfish and holds on to our own, benefit at the cost of the greater community, and in fact takes privilege from it or benefits from it, or says, well, they're like that, not me, or tries to change their identity to mix and integrate too quickly, or whitewashes something, or says something like, this pain is secondary and doesn't speak their truth. All these are Asuric tendencies. And Devic tendencies, you don't have to speak them, but even one genuine tear for another's pain. When we feel the pain of another genuinely, whether we can have a satsang or not, write a blog or not, have a social media posting or not, have the right photo or not, but we have a genuine pain, and hey, if we can go join a march or hold a satsang or do a discourse, that's additional value. But if we can feel it, then we know we are Devic. And this is for us to find out. It can also be compared to, tamas and sattva. Tamas and rajas are the dark and agitating qualities in our mind, and sattva is a clarifying, unifying qualities. Then we have, how do we address the embedded white privilege that is an unconscious inheritance and give whites a blindfold to what is their part? Right? So just like a former person asked, how do I deal with the unconscious subjugation? There is an unconscious subjugated person inside the black community, and there may be an unconscious oppressor inside us. But if you're that person, if you're a white person, and if you're asking that question, then I think you've already moved forward. I don't know what color you are, but whatever be your color, it begins with knowledge, it begins with self-awareness, it begins with listening to and connecting with the media. It even begins with asking somebody, hey, I don't see enough black faces on your website or on your social media, and then that person can give a response, and being willing to listen to it. Privilege can be anywhere, right? So we want to be real, we want to be authentic. I don't have all the answers for you. I haven't thought it through. I'm not an expert on, how to remove racism. But I know that I'm not a racist. I know I have had some trauma from racism as a young kid, and it took me some while to grow from that. But I converted that trauma into becoming a very compassionate person, because I was rejected for my skin when I was a young child, and so was my son. I never wanted to reject anybody for their looks, for how God made them, how Divine Mother chose what skin they would be, because she flows through everyone. And for me, when I see a young child with black skin, I think Kali, you know. Yeah. So I worship her. She's my mother. So I don't know Devi. Devi means goddess. I don't know what is the answer to that. If you are the person I think you are, then you will understand when I say I don't know, which means you shall know from within you. Next one. How do I stay dharmic with people? Stay dharmic with people who are so asleep it provokes my anger and frustration, which can make my responses very unkind in educating them. How do I stay dharmic? Okay, so I don't want to condone your anger and frustration, right? Because in fact, the first part of my teaching was that you might experience your anger and frustration on needing to restore dharma. But then when there is lack of dharma, so some of your anger and frustration may be quite justified. So maybe in the next part of my teaching, when I talk more about emotions, it will help you. But I want to say that let's go back to the 4 ways of bringing correction. One of them is the friendly way, known as sama. Okay, so you just in a friendly way, that should be the first way. Dana means you are generous. Maybe somebody is saying something, but you be generous around them because they don't mean it or they don't have awareness. So it's almost like they're irritating you, but in friendship you give them advice. So it's dana means more like a gift. You, in a friendly way, you give them the gift of your suggestion. A third way is called Veda, which means before we, it's not just you, but before we explode on someone or before we educate them to the point where we lose our own, inner center, let's separate from them. Maybe we can be a little colder with them. Maybe we can not hang out with that person. Or maybe we can write a letter and say, we're done. Think about this and I'm taking a break from you. It's only in the 4th way we want to punish them. So now if you want to educate someone, see if you can make it a bit more friendly and gifting in the process, because we are winning over hearts and minds, right? So we have to apply every tactic. We don't want our words to become the bomb on the House of Parliament right away. We don't want that. We don't want that. Great question. I think this is a universal question. But I don't want to condone your anger or your rage. I think if I think the black community, if you're speaking, and even any Devi community, whoever feels the rage of oppression, if you're a Deva and you're feeling the rage, I think it needs to be felt. It needs to be felt. I don't think I could have done this satsang as calmly as today as when I heard about what had happened. That doesn't mean my rage is not there, except that I have now converted my rage into action. Yeah. I've donated, I've spoken, I've written, those things. Okay, then if we come from a generational history of white supremacy, how can we connect the negative karmas that we may carry from us or has come down to us through our own incorrect subconscious thinking? Yeah, so if we come from that any kind of supremacist background, in this context of white supremacy, we also have politicians who are fanning that white supremacy, but there must be something in your ancestry that you are listening to me right now. Can you have spiritual ancestry that is different? Because that is why in India, excuse me for my English, it's my second language, but in India, we had not just a biological ancestry, but we used to be more proud of our spiritual ancestry. So if you have spiritual teachers or anti-racism advocates who you make your ancestors, as in you make them your mentors or teachers in your mind, then you follow you will benefit from their good karmas. And in your case, I know that you're my student. You're you're my inner spiritual student, so you have my ancestry. I'm your ancestor, and I carry more weight over any other ancestry. So and I know that you're flowering in your life, and you're the most compassionate creature, and you can't kill an ant. So you have nothing to worry about. But if we have that, then in that case, we can atone to it by dedicating this lifetime to supporting the Black community. We can do something at our level. Can you go out and protest? Can you write a blog? Can you share a post? Can you donate on a regular basis? Can you look at everybody can you inform your children about how the same higher power, the rainbow has 7 colors. There's every color on the planet. We all come together and make one divine truth. Talk like that. Do it. That will help you. Okay. This police brutality is systemic. They are taught and influenced to treat people based on skin color. How do we address this learned supremacy? Learn it. I don't know. I don't have all your answers, Devi. I'm also part of this unfair system. Who knows, my satsang will be now black listed, or rather white listed. But let's become truth tellers. Let us be willing to lay down our life if need be. I think Malcolm X spoke something about, I don't remember his exact quote, but he said something about, we come in not knowing the purpose of our life until we die with a purpose. When I became an Acharya and I realized that there was a lot of superficializing of spirituality, not connected with reality, the Vedas had just become a bunch of mantras and miracles, for people. I knew in the field of Ayurveda, in the field of yoga philosophy, in the field of Vedanta or non-dual wisdom, I had to be who I am. I remember having these early visions of being punished and being alone because your colleagues won't appreciate you kind of letting the hat out of the bag. My students misunderstand me across the board. I stand alone. My truth stands with me. So this is how we work when we know that there is a system that is working against you. You have to believe in your own power of teja, intelligence, virya, power, and bala, strength. Intellectual, physical, mental, hone yourself. Find your deva friends. Make your community work for legislation, protest, and don't condone the people who are taking a more radical route too quickly. Don't separate yourself too quickly. Watch and see the whole movement play out. Have more gentleness for how people are expressing their protest. It's so quickly to say, well, we're not them. I know that looting shops is not the way. So I'm not saying be kind to the looters. Let's wait and watch, history has this, it plays out. What has been looted from the Black community? Think about that. Yeah. I don't know your answer, but I can tell you that each of us has to stand in our own strengths and convictions. Next one. I thank you. Thank you, Aparna, that I won't be able to answer more questions now, but people are... I feel happy that I have kind of given the gist of where I am with this, and we will come back with the next teaching soon. Thank you so much, and for your beautiful questions, and for allowing me to be truthful to you. Thank you. Welcome everybody. In today's satsang, I'm going to be talking to you about angst that we experience in our intimate relationships. This is based off of a few questions I have collected, and I may answer what I can. And the first one, I'm going to actually read to you the questions. And the first one is from somebody who's seeking guidance as a mom. And she says, I have a beautiful 3-month-old baby who has brought an enormous amount of love and joy into our lives. What I'm struggling with is the very big changes happening in my life and trying to find new balance and, most importantly, who I am now. My love for Ayurveda after reading your book, she's referring to my book Ayurveda Lifestyle Wisdom, was a very new-found love of only 1 year, and the practices I implemented in my life helped me overcome a horrible feeling of dullness that would creep into my mind since childhood. I found daily lifestyle practices to be the greatest gift, connecting me to self-love and spirituality on a daily basis. Now it is rare that I find to practice my old routine that kept me well balanced. Can you help me with any advice as a first-time new mom? Okay, so in just what she's saying is that I read your book. It teaches Ayurveda lifestyle practices. I implemented them for a year. It helped me overcome the dullness in my mind. I loved how I was at that time. Now I have a baby who I love, but in the care of that baby, I'm not finding the time to nurture myself, my Ayurveda practices, maybe something like oiling your body or chanting a mantra that I've talked about. The book is a complete prescription for vitality and joy. So what do I do? Let me take a sip of water. I don't know anything about your life situation. I don't know if you have any support. In India, we used to say it takes a village to raise a child. And but if you don't have that kind of support, it may be more different for you. But I would say that the child is an extension of your own being. So when you change, this applies for mothers. You are the divine mother of that child, and it's come out of you and it's totally dependent on you, and you love that child, so that's not the issue here. But here's something extra that you can bring towards that child. Don't look at that child as your child only. Look at that child as divine mother's child put in your trust. Okay, so when we look after a child or an elder or a ailing neighbor, don't just look from your ego perspective of my child, my neighbor, my parent. Look at them as divine mother has entrusted. So you have a relationship with divine mother or divine father or divine allness, whatever you want to call that higher power or the universe. It's entrust in you. And so therefore every time you spend with that child is really spending time with that higher power. Okay, that's one thing. See if you can bring higher power into your life, because otherwise my teachings won't help you much. If you're an atheist or an agnostic, I may not be your teacher. But if you have it doesn't matter what God, what version God, doesn't matter. In my case, I see God everywhere. So it's up to you, but bring that. So one is that when you're changing nappies, you are in a temple. When you are feeding the baby, you are in a Buddhist monastery. When you are patting that baby to sleep, you are talking to Allah. So it doesn't matter, okay? Whatever you want. Next, so it will feed you, this thinking, this look. When you're washing that baby's feet, think you're washing your guru's feet. That's how you make that baby sacred. Now my baby's grown up. He lives in India now. Now he's working for he's trying to save the environment, and I'm very proud of him. But, when I take care of my dog, when I take care of my students, when I correct them even, I always feel like it's not just between me and them, it's between me, them, and the higher power. That feeds me. So one, you won't be so emotionally tired. That will relieve you. Secondly, the very fundamentals, because sometimes with the baby, sleep time is disturbed. But if you can spend 10 minutes of alone time every 3-4 hours, just 10 minutes, close your eyes and find that higher power within and get that going, that will be helpful. It's fine to suspend most of your Ayurvedic routine except oiling. And you could rope in a friend if you don't have a relative to come oil your lower back, your spine and your stomach. That's all you need, not the whole body. Sometimes your head massage would be helpful. Once a month you can even ask a masseuse to come in and use oil like warm sesame oil. I hope you understand that everything you did for 1 year is supporting you. But these few simple things you do, like 10 minutes every 3 hours, I'm making an appointment to be with myself. I think somewhere, not sure where, but we are giving out the Atma Bodha meditation recorded by me for anybody to download. Send an email to my website administrator. They'll guide you where it is. Or probably it's on Insight Timer if you look for Acharya Shunya. Yep, it's there. You can always do that meditation every day for 30 minutes, even when your baby is asleep. And it'll be fun because the baby's subtle body is listening. Because the baby is not a baby. The baby is an ancient soul with a baby body and a baby mind. But the ancient soul will listen to the meditation. So you can have a bunch of meditations there that you can listen to on Insight Timer. And on my website, I believe somewhere they are there. I don't remember where. Or on my social media somewhere. You can find it and do that. Nurture your spiritual being right now. Do some oiling, even if it's once a week or twice a week. You don't have to do it every day. Keep drinking warm water. That's good for taking care of your Agni or digestion, keeping you free of toxins. And smell roses. Roses are good for the heart. I also have a free rose booklet that you can download with recipes. You can make rose sharbat with roses if you have them. Of course, pesticide-free roses. I hope you have an organic garden, or you may have friends who could bring you some roses. So you can do very simple things. Suspend 80% of the dinacharya, but these critical things that you do when the baby is old enough to take the baby for a walk in nature would be nice. Clarity will come back, and then I'm sending you love. Hope this helps you. Students who have responded to you in the Vedic contemplation group where you asked this question, and you will get benefit from their responses. Now the next question that I have is, I am inspired to write to you today because my soul yearns for further guidance in this moment. I mentioned that I had for many years used food as a way to stuff my emotions, and as a result lived under the veil of tamas, which means darkness, in body and mind. Through the Ayurveda practices, because this person is a student of my Alchemy for Ayurveda course. It's a 1 year long life transforming course. I'm very proud to teach. So she's a student, and she says, through the Ayurveda practices, what has emerged is an intense anger and sometimes even rage. I recognize that must be part of the healing process, and this anger needs space to manifest. I do cultivate sattva, which means a balanced mind, in my life as much as possible through daily meditation, pranayama, yoga, walking in nature, sometimes listening to kirtan, but this is anger rage that has taken over my being, and I am at a loss. I'm at the moment sheltered in place with my parents. Normally I live alone and far. This is the most challenging situation for me, and I find myself projecting this anger onto my parents and even on one occasion onto a stranger. I feel awful that I'm unable to control these outbursts, and that as a spiritual seeker I'm falling at exercising some of the most core teachings. At the same time, I do recognize there are many childhood traumas that have not been processed, and perhaps the anger I felt as a child is finally having its time in the light. I am wondering if there are specific practices that you would recommend for me. Is there a way to channel and transform this anger and move through it? Part of me just wants to isolate and be silent so that I do not act out, but that does not seem to be a healthy solution. Thank you for writing. So there are three gunas or qualities of the mind. One is known as tamas, which is a heavying quality, and it suppresses many things including painful memories. One is rajas, that agitates us mostly in a worldly way. So we distract ourselves from painful memories. So we'll watch TV, we'll talk on the phone, we'll go shopping, we'll try to achieve at our workplace, we'll pick up fights for no reason, we'll argue, we'll just stay agitated. Okay? So what has happened between these two qualities is tamas has already concealed it from us. So that's concealing it. So we don't have active day-to-day remembrance. We know we are something is off, but we don't remember it's that we need to work through. And then if it ever inches a little bit, we have all this busyness that keeps us distracted in the world. So between the concealing and the distraction, the work we really have to do doesn't get done. So I invite my students in Alchemy through Ayurveda course. I go through a detailed 1-year process where I help them rein in this tamas and rajas and activate a third quality, the life-saving quality, the mind-saving quality known as sattva, which then makes your mind like a pure crystal. You know, it's not a cloudy crystal anymore, it's pure crystal. And it allows light to shine through, and the light that shines through is of your own self from within and God from outside. So you don't become a super person, superhuman, but you become a very functional, capable, not aggressive, but assertive, peaceful, self-soothing, self-uplifting, self-celebrating, and dharmic person who can take right action. But sometimes in this journey, dear one, dear student, from tamas to rajas to sattva, you might find that so the veiling has reduced and the distraction has reduced through my teachings in the course. You are following my teachings, so you have come to a more sattvic place. And oh boy, what got revealed in that clarity was your own stuff that needed addressing. So first I want to say, good job, and you rightly recognize it, that this is your work to do in this lifetime. I can't spend a whole time helping you how to deal with your inner trauma. When my students come up with childhood trauma, I tell them to go find professional help. There's amazing people who've done amazing help with childhood trauma, and we would be remiss if we didn't take benefit from theirs. I can really only, I stick with my scope of things. But here's what I can tell you. That I can tell you a little more about anger and rage. So there's something critical that I want to tell you. Anger is known as krodha in Sanskrit. This is coming up in my book, Sovereign Self. All your questions, I wish I could just pre-release the book. So just read the book. It's going to fix you. Fix a lot of stuff and lead you to the right people. I can't fix you. The book can't fix you, but it will give you a lot of suggestions to self-fix yourself. But this anger is known as krodha, and its purpose, everything is divine. And a lot of people say, or religions say, anger is not good. Again, the Vedas say, there could be tamasic anger, where you don't even know why you're angry. You're just angry. So you're acting out on the stranger, or it's a rajasic anger, rajas anger, where it's like so much anger, you pick up a gun, and shoot another. I'm not talking about you. Like you're just vocal, talking, emailing, back, forth, you're not thinking. Both of these angers are delusory. Okay? Then there is a sattvic anger. And this is what you have to now understand. You have to make your anger more sattvic. Say, I'm angry. That's great. It's an insight. This anger is not because of what the stranger did right, or what my parents did today. This is an anger coming from 30 years ago, 40 years ago. So this, only in sattva can you do this kind of discernment. Then you can look at your parents. Are they apologetic? Are they trying to make amends? Or when they traumatized you, were they evil? Were they ignorant? Just stupid, foolish? Have they themselves been victims of trauma? Are they just simply perpetuating that? So just by knowing that, it doesn't mean forgive your parents. I don't teach these kind of absolute values, okay? Forgiveness is the high. I don't talk like that. May not be possible to forgive. We are still exploring anger. But at least you realize it's not like somebody's pushing the pin in you today. So you can breathe and say, this is from the past. This is beautiful. Anger is now. So anger's role. What is anger's role? Anger's role is information. Anger's role is to tell you that your boundaries have been violated. But unfortunately, a lot of the anger is delusory. Sattvic anger informs you. But sattvic anger does not make you delusory. Sattvic anger does not make you project things. It makes you real. It makes you, it leaves you with options of how to make corrections. But delusory anger, which is rajas and tamas, makes you just go lose control. Like you said, I acted out on my parents or whatever. Even if you want to make corrections to your parent, and I told those 4 strategies, if you were listening to my satsang earlier, catch the first part of it, but there is samadana, bheda, danda. There are 4 ways of dealing with people who have affronted you, not just one way. So anger is different from acting out from anger. That's a second choice we make. And do we act from anger strategically, smartly? We bring about historical transformation in a relationship, an organization, or a country. Do we become a harbinger of change? Do we do this peacefully? Do we do this curtly? Do we do this coldly? These are all our next choices. Anger has to be felt. I'm angry. It's visceral. It's like red. And you got to feel it. Feel it. And then breathe through it. Then say, why did it come? Why did it ring all the bells in every cell of my being? It might take you 10 days, 10 years to understand what's going on. Sometimes the anger is on your own self and we are projecting it on another. Oh, I need to do something here. I need to get on a diet. I need to draw a better boundary. I need to change my job. I need to leave my marriage. I don't know. But anger should not be taken just like it came, I acted. It came, I acted. Or I should just suppress it. It's bad. People are so afraid of anger. I tell you, anger is Divine Mother coming to your rescue. And have the guts to feel it out. Feel it like you feel diarrhea. Feel it happen through all of you. It's so visceral. But if it's sattvic anger, it will leave you with gifts. It will leave you with clarity. I became angry with the way Ayurveda was being taught. It was visceral. I couldn't sleep. I had knots in my stomach. And it led to me to create my award-winning, totally transformative Ayurveda teachings. Nobody teaches like me. I know why. Not because I'm great. Because I got angry. I got angry at how diluted it was in the West, dumbed down, and how overly scientific and anesthetizants made antiseptic Ayurveda separated from its spiritual roots in India. I didn't like either. Sorry. I mean, there are exceptions and they are great teachers in East and West, and I consider them my friends. I'm just saying, overall, I didn't know what Ayurveda is anymore. Is it just a package, a tea, a ghee? What is this? Ayurveda can transform lives. But the truth is not being told. Vedanta had been reduced to just oneness even to your rapist. Oneness to the people who are going to, racially discriminate and kill our brothers. What is this oneness bandwagon unless we know who I am, who are you, and where is oneness? Oneness can be understood by a certain mind, not by every mind. Every mind has to know about dharma, not about oneness. So, my anger turned into my organization, my mission, my work. What is your anger going to turn into? It's your choice. That's all I can say for now. Wait for my book, pre-order it. There is a chance it may come earlier to you than later. Okay, right? Next. Oh, and don't start shaming yourself because you acted out or whatever, okay? We are human. We make errors. We don't understand. We don't understand our own anger. We feel like it's so violent, it's going to take over. we suppress it most of the time. Okay, now knowledge has come, work with it. Divine Mother gives us many chances. Okay. Now, time permitting, no time permitting. Let's see if I have. Yeah, one person said, I won't even read out the question, or maybe it will take time, but their biggest relationship is how to act with their own self. Like left to themselves, they have no rules to follow. They spend a lot of time on social media, and they spend a lot of time in their memories. I just want to say that during this lockdown, I'll just say a general statement because I want to complete this and then take your questions. And if there are not questions, then I'll speak more. But I just want to say that we spend a lot of the time away from ourselves. Like I said, putting a lid on our memories, on what we need to look at, and being distracted. And if it can't be in the world physically, then social media gives us that option. Netflix gives us that option, right? Or what else? What do people watch? Prime, right? Prime and other things, video games, yeah? Recreation to the point of unconsciousness. That's what my neighbor told me. My neighbor said this from morning to night they binge watch. So now they can't sleep at night. So we spend a lot of times away from ourselves, and if we are like too scooped up with our relatives, like our parents, and we're feeling our anger or whatever, like with our in-laws, people come into our lives because we have some work to do, learning to do from each other, and we avoid that most of the time. But if you have this opportunity, first come to peace with, I'm talking about intimate relationship, I'm not talking about the movement that's going on right now after Brother George Floyd's death. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about our intimate relationships. Even if they are triggering you, it's a great time to see, why am I being triggered? You can descend into your heart at that time. Right now, I can tell you that feeling very triggered, become aware of the air you are breathing. Become aware of the space that's holding you. Become aware of the earth that is supporting you. Become aware of the sunshine without which you cannot live. Be thankful to your eyes because they can see, your ears that can hear. Just ground yourself back to you and all the gifts you already have. Spend more time with yourself, journal. Why don't you create, if you are a painter or an artist, you could draw images of your pain, your sorrow, and then put some love signs on them. You could cultivate a garden. I don't know if you can see my partner, Chef Sanjay, walking back and forth. He's inspecting our potted plants and our garden and our backyard and our vegetables for any help they need. Spend creative time. This time will not come back. And social media, it is an instrument for me, for instrumenting change. I make my post, if I have to look at something, I look at it, but I don't go there because I have nowhere else to go. Yeah. I've completed my third book. It's called Roar Like a Goddess. So Sovereign Self is coming out. Roar Like a Goddess will come out a few months later. It's an empowering book for women. It's every woman's guide. There's another issue at hand, patriarchy, which we have internalized, all women of all color. And women of color have excessively internalized it, so I wrote about that. I'm beginning yet another book now. With all the time that has opened up, I don't have to make physical appearances anywhere. I can be at home. How can you be creative? Maybe you could take one of my courses if you love my teachings. This is a great time to start the Alchemy with Ayurveda course. Cook accordingly. We've been even, we're supporting you in so many ways. So make good use of your time. It is said that time gives you this. This is Maya. This is the shadow. First you think you are killing time, then time kills you. While your senses are working, while your intellect is there, did you use it to make a worthy journey into your godhood? Or did you just spend time going to the refrigerator, to the social media and this and that? Social media, use it to connect with a purpose. Read a book for a purpose. And that purpose is freedom, inner peace and sovereignty. With that, I'd like to see if I have any questions and go from there, and then we end. Okay, so I guess we should take, it's 11:47, we should take a minute's break while Aparna forwards me your questions, and I'll see how many I can answer. Okay, see you soon. Welcome back, and I would like to answer this question. How to protect myself from the unconsciousness of those that are very close during the lockdown. I do my best to bring my shadow to light, but sometimes it gets activated by the shadow of another. Well, keep listening to my podcast, Shadow to Self. But I can say this, that's what happens when we come together. And sometimes others project their shadow on us, which means their unconsciousness. Shadow doesn't mean necessarily evil. It just means they've become temporarily unconscious, and their truth or their authenticity or their reality or their knowledge of what they're really feeling has become clouded by, has become concealed by tamas and agitated into sounding like something else from rajas. So they're not in a sattvic state temporarily. So have you had that happen where a husband and wife are saying you, and then they both say, honey, I thought about it, I needed to do this, and then she says, no, don't worry, this is what I need to do, and then they both sit and eat some pizza together, or hopefully khichdi together. But the point is, they were both in tamas, where they got clouded in their own knowingness. Then they went into rajas and they blamed, but then they had a breakthrough and they went into sattva. So we all go through these, thankfully. You don't even need necessarily the Vedas to journey that, except that when you come to a teacher like me, that journey becomes a little more, you could say, conscious. And then you can choose, you can say, oh, I'm doing this, I'm really uncomfortable, so let me sit with this, not project my anger out right away, feel it, let it inform me, and see where I'm coming at, what is the reality here, or if I'm feeling the grief, what's going on here. And then you can come to that issue at hand, and then you can choose to, work with it, or express it, or communicate it, or use it to change something in your life. So emotions come up to tell us something, and we should be able to listen to them versus hurling them out right away, is what I would say. Nor should we suppress them, because then they would never come up and tell us what we need to be told. So either way, don't suppress them and don't overly throw them out all over, scatter them, be with them, listen to them. And when people are operating from a shadow, a great place is to step out of your shadow into yourself, to say what's really going on, and I did it, with my son. My son was in his teenage at that time, and he would pick those little things with me where I would find that he is being, a teenager, and he's overriding rules of decency, and we're just we're gonna get caught up there. And so when he would get there and he would raise his voice, telling me Mom, I'm 14, so now I'm gonna raise my voice, I would not raise my voice. I would not raise it louder than him to show, well, you think you're 14, but I'm 14. I wouldn't do that. I would actually drop my voice. I would and then when his words became more, my words became fewer. And I would become quieter, and I would say, okay, let the shadow pass. And I would pray for my son. And once or twice I went and fed him something, because a clear head would help him reach reach clarity sooner. And then when I saw him kind of calmed, and he came up to me and said, hey Mom, can you make me some milk? And by the way, Mom, something, I would then maybe not even talk about something that day, but then the next day when he is not operating from his shadow, I would bring him up. So the way to deal with other people's shadow is to keep your shadow in rein, in check. It's always about our shadow. It never is about another shadow, until we are dealing with a collective shadow, where it means so many people's shadows, like the shadow of white supremacy has taken over. Then we need to not battle our shadow with their shadow, but then we have to battle our truth with that shadow. So it's always about truth. But if you say, well, my shadow comes out too, then I'm just glad you're on this satsang, and hope you catch my podcast. I hope you read my book. I hope you educate yourself with any other teacher who can help you through this. The more it looks like you're doing that, it looks like you are a connoisseur for knowledge. And if you are that person and you ask these kind of questions, chances are you'll find your shadow midway misbehaving and call it back. And that's the U-turn you take. You take that U-turn every day, every 10 minutes, and then you take the U-turn in your life. When I was younger, I would take U-turns in the middle of the day. Okay, my day has gone like a shadow, I need to bring it back to truth, self. Then I would have my shadow act out every few years, maybe. Now my shadow has a backseat. So that's the work we have to do, my dear. You're in the right place, in the right state of mind. Let's see if we have any other question, and then we are good to go. No. So probably these two satsang topics were helpful to you. I have met people who are spiritually inclined, read spiritual books, talk about spiritual things. But when I talk to them, because they trust me and they share with me, I found out through the whole day, unless they are falling asleep, which is another kind of shadow action, they don't close their eyes and sit with their breath. No. Not even meditation, but they don't even do this. So there is no check-in whatsoever. And if you spend your whole day during this lockdown outside you, and you don't map that 1 feet distance in, you're gonna be going up and down. And the center lives here. Spend more time here. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. Just being. I have this place in my bedroom, this orange colored comfortable sofa, one piece, and I just go, it's very comfortable and it's become my cave. So I'll be, writing a book, responding to an email, recording a podcast, though I try to do these things from here, but after a while, I'll be in the garden, I'll be with my partner, I'll be walking my dog, I'll be having a meeting with my team, I'm talking to my publisher, and then I will remember myself calls me. And I'll drop everything and go sit there, cuddle up in a shawl, create a little space, a little den for yourself. Nothing to do. Don't even listen to a podcast at that time, not even mine. With yourself. That is going to become the boat through which you will cross this ocean. Thank you so much for listening to my satsang. Please receive me with the love that I come. It's not very popular to be me right now. Not necessarily very trendy either, nor very financially lucrative. But I'm gonna role model to you what it means to be here. Okay? Thank you so much. Bye bye now.